All right. Good evening, everybody. What's happening? How's everyone doing tonight? It is, of course, Friday night. It's Friday Night Fellowship. Hope this mic doesn't get in my way or anybody else's way. All right. How's everybody doing tonight? That took a moment there. It's another Friday night under our belts. Well, I guess it's not under our belts yet because it's not over yet. How's everybody doing out there? Hope everybody's doing well. I hope the week has been going swimmingly for you. There's a term you don't hear very often anymore, swimmingly. Um, Boy, there are a lot of things going on out there, ain't there? I tell you, I don't know if we're going to talk about everything under the sun, but we're going to try to talk about a few things. Whatever comes up, comes up. I'm not exactly with a topic this evening off the top of my head. Been doing a lot of different other stuff, getting a lot of other research done to get that prepped and ready and for upcoming videos. So we'll see how that goes. Um, I tell you what, as usual, I am thankful to be able to be here. Um, Very often in life, we get thrown off course and don't get to see everything. Um, Good evening, brother Jorge. Good to see you, bud. Um, I always ask you the same thing: how the weather's going on up there in New England. It's a wonderful place. I tell you, I'm sidetracked, but I talk about people about the North. I think I mentioned this before. Down here, when I say the North, they always think Michigan, because of Michiganders, because they think North. But I'm like, no, no, I'm up in the Northeast, and I've had a couple of people say, "Oh, the other North." I'm like, okay, didn't know that was the other North, but apparently that's the other North. Did not know that. Well, I hope your week is going well. I hope everything is decent. I hope your girls are doing okay today. I hope they're doing fine and well. But I know that I got a lot of things going on, and we might jump into um, that topic that I spoke about earlier this week that I did a video on. And I tell you, I don't know what it is, but it's been sitting on me, this whole software, Bible software. And it's really been bothering me throughout the week because of how much today's Christians rely on technology. And we've talked and joked about the tithely, and we've talked about those things. Um, but weather is surprisingly not too cold yet. Good. Girls are great. Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. Down here, it's getting a little chilly. We were in the high 60s today. I think we were high 60s down here today. Overnight seemed to be probably 40. I'm freezing. You would think by now, living down here, I wouldn't be freezing because I'm used to the cold up north. I tell people just because I'm from the north doesn't mean I like the cold. Let me tell you that right now. I'll take the warm any day of the week. I'll wear my Gulf Shores hat a lot because I love going down the Gulf Shores. Beautiful down there, looking out on the ocean, just imagining what is out there, and just everything God makes is amazing. Always anywhere I go somewhere I haven't seen before, and I'm looking around and excuse me, the mountains and the forest, and it's just I'm always amazed at how awesome God is that he's put that there. Well, he did put that there, but he created all these things, and I never stop looking in awe. Sometimes I drive home from work every day, and I have a decent view on my left hand side coming back home each day. It's about a 25-minute drive, and every day I'm thankful for that view. Every single day. So God can place us in some beautiful places. But God can put us in beautiful places or places where we also need to be. But yeah, you probably saw that video early this week about I was talking about the Bible software, and I I want to know why Christians, and I don't have the ability to do a poll on YouTube. I don't know. I probably can if I figured it out, but why? Why do so many Christians rely on software? I just I'm having a hard time. I know the easiest thing would be because of convenience, right? The convenience is why people do it. But is convenience actually worth it? Because as we talked about earlier this week, or I talked about in the video with chapter 1, verse 25 of Matthew, that that word was not the same it was different online than it was. If you can hear water, that's just me pouring my glass of water over here. Now I haven't gone through the other. I have a couple of more videos done that'll be coming out on the Tischendorf, not Tischendorf, Westcott and Hort stuff, but I'll get around to getting those out as well. But I think it's important to understand that when you're looking at biblical software or any type of software, it can change. Somebody creates it, somebody designs it, somebody's in charge of the updates to it. Something, when you say, hey, get an update in 45 days, that means somebody's done something new to it. What have they done? Oh, we've created a different format. Did you create just a different format, or did you put different words in places? Perhaps that'll be a deeper study down the road or a deeper research. I don't know. But I wish we could go back. I wish most people would just rely on the book that's it. Well, not this one. This is the revised version of Westcott Hort. Don't rely on that one. This is actually the problem with your modern Bibles. But we can't just look at the paper. Just open up your Bible and read. I think when people do a lot of these, and I do these comparative scriptures and looking at other ones and how do they match up, I've been blessed over time to get different ones. I think 2 weeks ago I was able to pick up a couple new ones. 1985 NIV KJV parallel, and then the 1983, I think it is 83 Living Bible. So I'm able to look at older books, because what happens is not only is the secular world popular at doing this, but even the Christian world or the religious world is popular for the rewriting history. They're always rewriting history. That way you can never understand what happened. That way you're doomed to repeat the same mistakes, or you just don't even know what happened previously, because you don't have the paper. You don't have the documents. You don't have the book. You don't have the original. And I'm not talking about the original Greek. That's always funny, because if you have everybody claims to have the original Greek, yet they don't match. So somebody doesn't have the original Greek. I'm just saying, if all the Greek doesn't match, then someone doesn't have the original Greek. That's how I look at it. So I'm interested to find more about those things. The NIV, of course, was what I was talking about. I'll have more videos. I got a couple of more Matthews, but we are doing that in society. It's amazing how they mirror or mimic each other. Secular society and culture, and today's supposed Christian, professing Christian society and culture are almost identical. And it reminds me of the fact that when Constantine took paganism and what he considered Christians, which weren't real Christians then, and mingled them together, or just kind of twisted them together like some potpourri. I remember my mother used to have potpourri when I was growing up. Never liked potpourri. Couldn't stand the smell of potpourri. Don't know why. Just didn't like it. But and I'm not saying you're a bad person if you have potpourri. You go right ahead. But we're in that same time frame. We're in a time frame of when people sound good. You listen to a politician, he sounds good. Sounds like he knows what he's talking about. Sounds like something's going to get done. You're listening to a pastor or a preacher or a teacher. Man, they sound good. They sound like they know what they're talking about. But their hearts are far from. It's just lip service. And unfortunately, there's more and more today. And I used to think it should be easy to tell, but I think because there's so much of it today with people who are not what you think they are, it's getting harder and harder to tell. And when there's a plethora of these people out there, and this is my opinion, when there's a plethora of these people out there, and you have the desire and the longing to find something or someone to watch or listen to or read, it gets harder because you end up settling. You're like, well, this is the best thing I can find right now. And sadly, that is the case many times, and where people are forced into compromise or feel like they're forced into compromise because everyone and everything is compromised, and that becomes an issue. I'm not putting anyone down who falls for things. It's just that's what happens. Good evening, Provgal. Um, it's getting harder and harder for a lot of people out there, and it's sad when our only solace or our only place to go, and I'm not mocking anyone, is online, which you could find amazing people, but it's tearing, I think, sometimes people apart in the world because they are no longer functioning as much in the world. They're no longer outreaching in the world as they may have done 20 years ago because the internet exists. So the internet, yes, can be a tool. You just don't want it to make you a tool. I think that was a saying back in the 80s or 90s. I think somewhere in there. I don't know. What do you think, Brother Jorge? You think people are settling because they're unable to find anywhere good, and everybody seems so weird, and it's just getting harder to find things out there. I was just watching a link that you sent me a while ago. Oh, well, I wasn't watching link. You sent me that link, and the weird thing about YouTube is if you turn on YouTube and if you've watched anything from one person, all of a sudden you'll get it in your algorithm. But that guy that you sent me, that's a KJV guy, he is not a KJV guy. I'm just watching him. He is definitely some sort of hybrid of Pentecostal Iglesia, charismaticness. He's got the whole Yeshua going on. He's got a mixed match thing going on there. So um, I don't I don't think he's a big time King James Bible believing Christian. But I don't know the guy. I never talked to the guy. I don't know. So, but it's getting more and more difficult to see through the facades and the act people put on, and some people have been honing it for so long. Unfortunately, a lot of the people who call themselves Christians and so forth are now almost as if they're in theater arts. They're putting on this play. They're playing characters. They're creating characters that they think you want to see that fits the niche that they're trying to be part of instead of being genuinely themselves. Some people are genuinely themselves, and that's just the way they are, and so be it. But again, we live in a time where we have people who are trying to be a little more modern with the lights behind them that have these little blue light things or yellow green lights, stuff like that. Um, I think I've gotten a little better at sifting through this. Yeah, you've been a Christian, a saved longer, so. But I think newer people or people who are wanting something are getting deceived, unfortunately, because things look good on the outside, and there's just but they don't become who you think they are. I might go into talking about the Sunday about some, you know, not the typical warning signs that those people put out there, like 7 signs you're in a false church, those things like that. I'm not going to do the clickbait stuff like that, but I think there's a lot of low key signs that people miss. I think there are things they're not seeing. I think people looking at, oh, if you're in a mega church, you might be in the wrong church. Just, point out all the obvious. It's like when people are pointing out false prophets and things like that, as if you needed to be pointed out, like these, like the NAR people, all those kind of people, uh, um, or even old school Catherine, what's her name, Catherine Coleman, the I wouldn't say Benny Hinn was her protege, but he took a lot from that. But anyways, um, I don't mean that. Just a lot of low keys. A lot of people, and I think I'm more talking about King James Bible people who claim that they're King James Bible believers or they're KJV only, and then there's a lot of question marks. And I guess one could say that about me, but feel free to ask. Um, but a lot of things that don't make sense to me. One of the biggest problems, me personally, I probably have, I'm always having problems, um, is when you're too much in the world still. You're still too much in the world. Yeah, out of the new. I mean, out of the old into the new. And we should be leaving childish things behind us. But if you're holding on to all these childish things, I don't mean when you play basketball with your kids or football or baseball outside or whatever. I'm not talking about tennis or badminton. I don't mean those things. I mean getting really involved. I mean you're tailgating, at these places. You're wearing the shirt, the jersey of your favorite team. And I think we've all done it. A lot of people have done it at one point in time. Um, but when you really buckle down and you just shut off all the noise and you're like, man, what was I doing? Because sometimes you go to these churches, Pentecostals, Baptists, Catholics, Methodists, um, they're all doing the same thing. And they're like, well, I mean, my church is doing it. I drove by and my wife could correct me, but it was either a Unitarian or a Methodist church, and this was back up in Connecticut, um, in Vernon. I forget the name of that long road, and it was using a Paul Simon, I think, quote. Oh no, it was the Beatles, um, and it said, "All you need is love," but then it had God as the title. I'm like, that's it's a Beatles and God. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. If you know anything about Beatles, not the Bug, but the band. Yeah, no, God was not on the forefront for them, not even close. Um, and that's where we are, and it's been going on for a while. I think it's the biggest slope has been the last 20 years. I'd say probably 20 years. We've really started going down. And one would say, no, 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 the 80s when we had the tele. No, it wasn't even then either. Even then, it wasn't as terrible. Now we're at the pinnacle, like I said, of a whole different version of the 80s with the internet. Everybody's a preacher, everybody's a teacher, everybody's got the smartest brains on the block. We're finding guys nowadays who would rather make a living off of YouTube preaching or teaching. So that's their new thing. That's kind of like the same thing as the 80s. Television preachers, same thing. I just feel like I'm living through a more modern version of it now today than I ever have before. That's personally my opinion. I think I'm probably going to be making some waves on a few topics coming up. Um, and I might have one of them open mic night things. Military is going to be one of them. But there's a lot of questions I think I like to ask, and I want to hear Christians, other people who call themselves Christians who may or may not be, and their point of view of why they do this. Why are they involved in? I mean, you got Halloween right around the corner. You know how many churches are going to be celebrating Halloween? I mean, they're not going to be celebrating Halloween. They'll be outside their churches handing out gospel tracts, maybe some candies. I think I told you about that church up in not Stafford. Oh, what town? Palmer. Or is that Three Rivers? That was actually part of Three Rivers. Three Rivers, Mass. Three Rivers, Massachusetts. This church was dressed up as the characters in the Bible, handing out candy and gospel tracts. No, they weren't even handing out gospel. I take that back. I think I accidentally fibbed a long time ago. I said it. They weren't. There was invitation cards to the church. That's what it was. Invitation cards that dressed up as characters, handing out candy, and the little invitation cards come to church. Yes, because the guy dressed up like Chucky plans on going to church on Sunday. But here's the funny thing nowadays, that guy probably is in church. That guy is in the church building right now. You look around, you'll see mainstream Christians dressing up during Halloween. Why? What are you doing? Abstain? Are we not familiar with the terminology? Abstain from all appearances of evil? It doesn't make sense to me. Why are you getting involved with that? And I'm not saying we're all perfect and we all didn't fall for once in our lifetime and didn't do it. Listen, when I was a Pentecostal, well, I don't know that I took some oath and went, I swear to be a Pentecostal above. There's no oath there, although some Baptists do. But they celebrated Halloween too, but not in the church. They never celebrated in church. When I was growing up, now somebody else might have a different story or a different experience. But the Pentecostal churches that I went to growing up, well, they were Assembly of Gods. They were in two different towns. That's all, Fitchburg and Leominster. And when I was going to those churches, there was never a Halloween party. I cannot remember there ever being a Halloween party. I thought once that we did on one of the youth group Friday nights, but we never had a Halloween in the church building back then. I don't even think the Unitarians had Halloween back then in their churches. I've never ever seen it, ever. But now you see it. I was a Pentecostal, and they are so messed up you wouldn't believe it. They are such a messed up doctrinal people on the face of the planet, but they never had Easter bunny egg hunts outside their church. And that's why I say today, it seems, and I'm not, okay, I'll say this. I didn't go to every single Pentecostal church that's ever existed in this country, but those I went to, and those are churches I drove by. I was a cab driver. I drove box truck. I drove a lot in my time. Never did I see churches of any denomination with Halloween stuff out, on the front thing, or having Easter egg hunts. I'm not saying it didn't exist. I'm just saying I had never seen them, except for my house. I was raised Pentecostal. My family never celebrated Halloween. I've never celebrated Halloween. That's a good thing my parents did with raising us. Isn't that weird how Pentecostals are? Listen, you and I both can agree. They're a messed up. They got a lot of things just messed up. They are not my brothers and sisters. I unless they're Pentecostal by name, but they're not really Pentecostal. There are some people who are just like my mother was a Democrat, so I'm a Democrat, but I'm not really a Democrat, but my mom was, things like that. But yeah, they just didn't. It just was not a thing. So even the bad Pentecostal churches then were better than the good Pentecostal church now, because all the churches these days have it. I will say the one thing that they all did have in common, though, was Christmas. Jesus was born on Christmas Day, December 25th. That's the story, and they're sticking to it. Has always been it. Jesus was born Christmas Day. Some people would say during the Christmas season, but I have known churches to say Christmas Day. That's when he was born. And that's why we have Christmas. As we found out when we got older, I'm like, well, what's that show? Oh, that was a lie. Oh, Maury Povich. That's what it was. Took a lie detector test, and we can confirm that was a lie. I think it was Maury Povich. I could be wrong. It's one of them weird talk shows to do stuff like that, but that was wrong. That was a lie. But that was a big thing that got on. You should definitely be in church at Christmas time because that's when Jesus was born. Yeah, no, that's not true actually. So we've learned that as we gotten older and more brains and more resources and more reading of the Bible. But anyways, but that one they have in common. There was never Easter egg hunts. I don't know, brother Jorge, if you had Easter egg hunts at your church back then, when you were growing up, but we never had Easter egg hunts. Never. That was not a thing. Now there was Easter. You would get dressed up in your colorful clothing, your pink dresses, and your uh, don on your best. The old ladies were always wearing the nice hats and stuff like that. I don't believe that was just a Southern thing because I know Northern women who did the same thing. Um, so yeah, no Easter egg hunts, and that happens now all the time. Pay attention. I tell you what, pay attention while you're driving to work or you're out there going by a church during Easter time. See the signs out there and it goes, "Oh, Easter egg hunt this Sunday." Really? I think I told you about that church we went into up north, and I wasn't a big fan of going, but we ended up going, and I don't know. I think we went 2 different Sundays. I think it was 2 different Sundays we went there, and on one of them, they were talking about how not to forget. I don't know what they were saying, but they were going to have a party. Make sure you wear your costumes. I'm sorry, costumes inside. Okay, now you're not even doing outside the parking lot. Now you're just bringing that evil inside the church. My wife and I got up at that very moment, walked out. We walked out, gone, walked out. That was enough for us. I'm like, what are you doing? There are those who will say, "Well, it's a perfect time to witness." Um, what about all the other days? Why that day? Why have you chosen as if that's the most perfect day to go after evil? Because the Sunday before or the Saturday before was not a good day to go. So I do not believe I'll be making a Halloween video this year. I may have made one last year. I'm pretty sure I've made a couple in the past. I might be wrong, but I don't think I'll be making one this year. I'm not feeling led to do so. I think it's listen. You're either a Christian or not a Christian. So you want to go ahead and celebrate Halloween? Go for it. You're not a Christian, and you will be in internal torment. Sorry, wish it wasn't so, but therein lies the truth. And I know people can get mad at me. Um, look at all the things I've done for you, Lord. Depart from me, I never knew you. Uh, I implore people, stay away from that. Man, our lights are always off. Well, we don't live on a road that would be conducive for trick or treaters. Up north, we did, but the lights were off. We were had nothing to do with Halloween. In fact, when we drive down the road, my kids will look away or be disgusted by what they see during Halloween. It's blow up dolls of murder, mayhem, macabre, just all that stuff, that witchcraft, sorcery, and evil. But put up you know, be born again, ye be born again, then some people get a problem about that. But again, we know that's going to happen. So no Easter egg hunts. And yes, I had them at my house. My mother used to have them. I think a lot of people probably have the same ritual at their homes. There might be some money, there might be some candy, and some of the eggs. Now, and I'm not telling people that they're evil and bad because they grew up in a certain time frame in a certain way that they did that long ago, or even, excuse me, you're a new Christian, you were new at this, and you were holding on to things, and you felt deep down that it was wrong, but you still kept on going with it, thinking, well, I don't know, am I not wrong? Am I wrong? I have to explain to people then I'm not a JW because I don't celebrate any holidays. I remember my dad would put up a letter on the door explaining we didn't explain the household doesn't celebrate Halloween. Yeah, well, the rule was back then, if I remember, if you turn your lights off, that meant don't go to that house. That's you skip that house. I think that's what the rule was back then. Um, I don't know. I don't know what it was, but I'm telling you, and people will use the excuse. Well, I think it's okay to go out and hand out gospel tracts on Halloween. Not if you're dressing up. Not if you're dressing up and people knocking on the door and like, "Oh, hey, how you doing? Here's a gospel track. Here's a Snickers." I think they want the Snickers more than they want the gospel track. I'm pretty certain of it. But I know somebody might argue with the fact, what if, Stephen, you get that one person? We always do the what if in one person. Good evening, sister. Well, thanks for stopping by. It's good to see you. I hope everything is well in your neck of the woods. I hope you're doing okay. Excuse me. So, and it's funny that I have to explain to people that I'm not a JW because I don't celebrate Christmas time and Halloween, and it's not biblical. You know, it's just not biblical. And I know then we get to the argument about Sunday or Saturday. You know, uh, I think we find interesting things to get in a tizzy over. But yeah, like I said, I won't be doing any Halloween videos. I mean, I think that's good. I'm glad to hear that, sister. That's awesome. I think anyone who's been saved long enough knows we're not celebrating Halloween. I mean, what are you gonna? I'm waiting for Christians to dress up like Superman and Thor and all these evil idols. What are you doing? Now again, I think some people who are younger and immature hold on to these things. Um, well, now we're talking about superheroes. I think superheroes in the Christian world, it reminds me of um, J.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis and all the fantasy stuff that are not connected to reality. I think Christians need to be more connected to reality. And I think sometimes we get connected to those things and we start, I mean, remember, we're not supposed to have idols, right? What does the Bible talk about idols in our home? We're not supposed to have any idols, right? No graven images, no great and all that kind of stuff. But what is a figurine of superheroes? It is a graven image. I'm sorry, but that's what it is. You could say you're not worshiping that great, but are you? What are you conveying to people? And it's unfortunate. I think a lot of Baptists are really known for things like that. Their idol is, and I'm not trying to be mean to Baptists at all. I'm just saying, I have no hate, but the football game. We idolize college football down here. Now, I'm originally from the Northeast, so college football was not as big. It wasn't as prevalent as it is down here. Up there, we would worship, well, I'm from New England, so we would worship the Red Sox and the Boston Celtics and the New England Patriots and things like that. That's what we'd worship up there, not a college team. And I've been guilty of it. Years ago, I was a Patriot fan. Actually, growing up, I was a Celtics fan. When I was a kid, I was a Celtic fan. Well, my church never taught me any different. No pastor or preacher told me anything different. In fact, I went to one church. Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, you didn't have to agree, but thank you. I went to one church, Church of the Harvest. Brother Jorge, if you're ever in Fitchburg, if you're out in Greektown, I don't know if it's called Greektown anymore, but West Fitchburg, there's a church. I don't know if it's still there. Church of the Harvest. And when I lived with my dad when I was younger, so my teenage years, we went to this church, and we went to this pastor's house after church. Say that again. The Steelers? Oh, I didn't say Steelers. I was not a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, not if you were a Patriot fan. Oh, that's right. You're from that neck of the woods. So yeah, people were Steelers would have been big. Well, 70s was big for them, but even more recent times, the Phillies were huge back. The 76ers that they had, Dr. J and things like that. But we idolized sports teams. We put them on this gigantic pedestal, which is it's wild, you know. But I'm gonna go to my pastor. This has to do with football, actually. So I had a crush, I guess you could say, on the pastor's daughter. It sounds like the stupidest story. Yeah, idols. Yeah, Steelers. Oh, what do you got here? I'm waiting for my new uncorrupted body. I don't want to wear a costume or pretend to be a superhero. Yeah, that new body is going to be a whole lot more awesome. I'm trying to think of a good word. Way better. Yeah, no, I'm with you, brother, on that. Absolutely. But so I had a crush on this pastor's daughter. So I went over there one day. It was on a Sunday afternoon after church, and I did not get to date the pastor's daughter, by the way. Things just didn't work. Uh, I'm not gonna say his name because I don't know that he's alive or not anymore. So I don't want to be putting people's names out there because I don't know where he is today and how he's doing. Well, I know a little bit, but anyways, so I get there, and it was at their church. He was like, they were gonna cut service. Like, oh, we can't be here all day. We got the Dolphins on today. Dolphins being Miami Dolphins, and it never dawned on me then until later on in life. I'm like, wait, did the pastor just kind of end church a little earlier or didn't go as long because his Miami Dolphins were on? And so we were all going there that afternoon for whatever reason. A lot of people from church, I guess it's probably a cookout or somebody's party. I don't know. But I walk in and he's drinking a beer. I kid you not. He's drinking a beer. And I was stunned when I saw it because I'm a kid at this point thinking, wait, why is a pastor a beer? And then he goes on telling me beer's not wrong. Alcohol is not against the Bible. Nowhere does it say that you can't drink beer. It says that do not drink to excess. All right, so we're getting to minutia of things at that point. But there's my pastor, a non-denominational, by the way, with a beer, worry about the Dolphins. I would like to tell you where he is right now. No, not hell. Well, actually, I don't know. I don't know if he's living or not. But he's not a pastor anymore. I was having a conversation one day a few weeks back, maybe a month ago, with my father. And I try to talk about some things that are easy for him to remember because, again, he's slips in and out. He's got his issues. So I try to figure out something. I think I've asked 1,000 times where him and my uncle Ronnie went up to New Hampshire, and he tells me about the story of the quarries up in New Hampshire all the time. But I just wanted him to be able to have conversation about something he remembers from the old days. But he was telling me that he resigned. He's no longer a pastor, and he went back to work as a digital person. He worked in digital. In fact, I think he worked at digital back in either GE or digital back in the day. He lost his walk. Well, here's the problem when you walk with the world all the time. When you've got foot in both worlds, your legs start to split, and this cat, you can no longer connect these two sides, these worlds, and he just got split like a wishbone, and the larger part of him went the other direction. He probably, without a doubt, I would guarantee, probably still considers himself a Christian, and maybe he just decides that he wasn't called to be a pastor, um, and that it could be possible. But knowing that when these guys are in all these secular things, they end up in the wrong place when you follow those. And I will say that about me. I'm no different. Back when I was younger, in my earlier stages, knew where I want to be. No discipleship, no leadership. Um, Men that are considered to be godly are living both worldly lives, and so I fought hard with all that, and I had a lot of trouble with it. And again, we didn't have internet to run to, and which is nice that we have a fellowship here, which is really cool. Like I said, I think the internet can be a good thing. I think it can be also at times detrimental. A brother that's not with us this evening, I like what he does. He actually just absents himself for a little while from media, excuse me, social media and the internet. He'll just be gone for a little while, and I think that's pretty cool. I mean, I'm not offended if I don't see him for a couple of weeks. That doesn't bother me because I'm thinking, well, he's probably taking a little hiatus. I wish I was that disciplined. I am not, but I wish I was. But men are living worldly lives, and the churches are living worldly, and you become like that. You don't start that way, but then you seem to you start fading off. You start drifting, and you wake up one day and you wonder, wait a second, how in the world? I was just by the shore. I was only on my raft. I was just maybe a few meters out, not even a few meters. I was just 3, 4 feet in the water. I'm looking up at the sun, and I wake up and I'm trying to paddle back to shore. By the way, that's actually something that happened to me down the Gulf of Mexico. Now it's the Gulf of America, though. So I've been to both the Gulf of America and the Gulf of Mexico. Um, and that's what happens. And that's the analogy I think of is, I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't focused. I was looking at other things, and I drifted off into the ocean. And so there I am. I got my hands in. I wouldn't call it doggy paddle, but took these hands and was scooping back. I'm scooping back, pulling my hands out of the water, scooping back. But something I still think something either nipped me, stung me, or something bit me or hurt real bad for a second. But so whoops, I just knocked this thing down. And I'm getting back to shore. And that's again what we have to do as Christians ourselves. Sometimes we drift off into the ocean there. We start losing our focus on what we should be focusing on, and we're so consumed with everything around us that we drift off in the ocean, and that's what he did. And so we have to at some point take our little hands and I know it sounds a little weird, but scoop the water and get ourselves back to that shore. And that's what I had to do. It took me a long time to do so, because the ocean's a pretty big place and you can drift pretty far. But I do believe, and we can get into this once saved, always saved. And I think there's an element to that I do believe. I don't believe in work salvation, obviously. I believe works is just a manifestation of your faith. So that's the best way I can put it at the moment. But that's what we need to do. You're not a horrible human being because you drifted off a little bit. That doesn't mean you're a terrible human being that you're not saved. There are other reasons why you may have drifted off, because you may never have been truly committed in the first place. That could be it too. But for me, asking, seeking, and never getting a good answer, and just at some point I just kind of gave up, and I just didn't understand. I was confused, and I was so lost. And why is everything the same? Everything's the same. Oh, don't worry about it. Nobody's perfect. God still loves you anyways. Doesn't matter what sins you do. All those things. And I ended places I wish I wasn't in. So we have to be very, very careful of that, because it is easy to drift off into the Gulf of Mexico there, or the Gulf of America now. It can be easy to be on that raft and drift off and not pay attention. You're not focused to the shore. And as Christians, again, we need to look at the shore and go, whoa, whoa, I got to get back to the shore here. What is going on? How did I get out here? And that's what happens. It can happen. Now, did that happen to Pastor Scott? I don't know. That was his first name, Scott. That's the guy's name. I'm not going to do the last name just in case that guy's alive. Um, but was he saved? Was he not saved? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. As an adult, I can look at things and think maybe, but I'm not sure. As a kid back then, I wouldn't have known if he was saved or not saved. What do I know? When you're a kid, hey, as a kid, a pastor or a preacher is kind of like cops and firemen. They're all honest, and you trust them all no matter what. And your parents tell you that they're, trust everybody. But as you get older, whoa, 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 you can't trust everybody. What are you doing? I hope that analogy makes sense. And thank you for letting me drink my water live on air. Because it happens. And it doesn't make you a horrible human being. Now, where did you drift and what did you do? I think goes into whether you're saved, whether you were ever saved. I believe personally that my father is a false convert. Someone was very shocked when I said that about my own father. I'm not saying to be mean. I love my father because he's my father, or I should say my earthly father, my dad here on earth. And he never was a good father. And I'm not saying that as a sob story. Poor me. This is why I have all these problems because my daddy. That's not what I'm saying. Not at all. As you're an adult, you got to grow up and stop blaming everybody else. So you had a rough childhood. Now you have to overcome that. And with God, again, that can be done maybe quickly for some, not so much for others, but in time. But I think it gets down to what does a person do? When you're telling me a man is born again and saved and he's with I think YouTube blocks words or stuff. He's with how about the Robert Morris situation? I'll just put that name out there. If you know that name, then you know what I'm talking about. If you don't know that name, you can go ahead and Google it. But that tells me a man is not saved. I don't believe the man. What's his name there? The Calvinist guy there. Oh boy, I can't remember his. I really can't remember his name. Boy, I don't know, but he fell from grace as well because, as they say, because he was having an affair. Now, my understanding of that affair, it just wasn't like a hey, I accidentally one night. No, it was a long 20-year thing. So this was purposely done. So I don't think that's a saved man. I'm willing to reserve judgment on a one thing happening. Now, I'm not saying that to justify me because I've never actually done it. I've never cheated on my wife. I've never cheated on anybody. I've actually never done that. Even even in my lost days, I never did things like that. There were just things you don't do. There's lines you don't cross. And that's why I mean there are some people who make mistakes. Maybe they got arrested for I don't know, drunk driving. Um, I'm trying to think of things, but it's the best one I could think of. That's never happened to me either. I've never been arrested for drunk driving. Um, I have been arrested for assault and battery. I do remember, and I'm an honest guy. People will judge me for this, and that's fine. As long as you're prepared to be judged yourself. I'm not one of those people and said, "Do not judge me." Um, but I remember having what I used to call a sawed-off golf club. So back when I drove taxi, I had a golf club that it was. If you know what a golf club is, I think most people do. But the middle part of that bar was chopped off. So I had a small one. I held it under our seat because we weren't allowed to have a gun in Massachusetts. And at one point, we were allowed to have mace or pepper spray, but then they made that illegal for cab drivers. So I had that. So I was at a club called not I wasn't at the club like going to it. It was a place called Boomers in Leominster, right on the Fitchburg Leominster line. And I pulled in there and I saw a guy push a girl over a hood. So I wasn't trying to be a white knight, but again, my brain says, "Hey, can't let a woman get beat up." So I'm not saying it was right or wrong. Well, it was wrong, but it wasn't wrong. And I went over and I busted that guy's knee with the golf club. it wasn't so much of like I'm this angry lunatic, but it was an assault and battery, and I was charged with that, and that's what I did. There's no sin. There's no there's no denying that it was assault. I'm like, I've never, claimed that you don't understand. My medication was off or something, my Prozac wasn't working or I don't know all the other drugs. But I wouldn't consider that as heinous as things like Robert Morris. And I think people make mistakes and they make errors. Again, what kind of error is where we get to. So when I see a lot of extremists in the free grace style of movement of everything you can do, everything, yeah, everything is permissible. You can do, if the law says you can do something, you can do it. But what about the moral law of God? Can you break those things? And no, you cannot. You can't. So, yes, so in that instance, I would have broke the law. But people do make errors, and I think they're led to believe that one of two things: one, they were never a Christian, they were never saved, and they're a false convert, or you're always saved no matter what you do. You can commit all types of crimes; it doesn't matter. God died for you, so you can do whatever you want to that woman, that child, that man, whatever. We live in a world of extremes. And people say, well, you shouldn't use common sense. You should use the wisdom that the Bible imputes upon you. Yes, but common sense, believe it or not, comes from the Bible when you read. So, and again, I think my dad's a false convert. And by a discussion I had with him, it leads me to believe that he's a false convert. Now, people say, do you witness to your dad? In ways I do, and some days he didn't even know what was going on. Doesn't even know the conversation I had 5 minutes ago. So it gets tougher and tougher. And I tell my wife, I said, play some music, and he knows we read the Bible. We've invited him a couple of times, but that's another thing in life. Not everyone we know, not every family member that we have is going to be with the Lord one day. And I know that's one of the worst things one maybe can say, or a reality one must face, but that's the truth of it. It's not my desire. My wife and I pray all the time that our entire family finds salvation. And people say, oh, but you had some doubt, and therefore they won't get saved. Now you get into the whole type of NAR movement and all that kind of stuff. And like, if you weren't healed, it was your fault. No, you're where you are if God has you where you are. I'm rambling on and on. But I think my ability to be unpopular is facing the facts and reality of which they are. I don't pretend. I'm not interested. I think people have what we used to call skin in the game. And by the way, I got ADD apparently. Let me know if this mic system is working better than the way I used to have it. If the sound quality is any different, might not be any different. So I just tried something different, see if it worked. But and to clear up some of the clutter on my desk, because I'll have wires going all types of ways, and I'm like, I can't. I mean, now I lost my train of thought, but there are reasons why I think people are not saved. And like I said with my father, he said to me one day, well, he said this a long time ago, but he said to me again one day that he was saved in a Baptist church, Highland Baptist Church. And when I say the other day, I don't mean 2 days ago. I mean, just we often do that. We say other day, and it turns out it's like a month ago. He was saved at a Highland Baptist church, but he was a Pentecostal, went to Assemblies of God. That's where my mother went. And he got saved, and I remember connecting the dots. My mother said she wouldn't continue to be with him unless he got saved and went to church. By the way, my father was a Catholic originally, like a lot of people are in that time frame. Um, and then you got saved. And then you got with my mother, which I find is interesting because my father met my mother in a bar or some dance club bar thing out in, I think it was Air, Massachusetts. Either Shirley or Air. I'm pretty sure it was Air up on Route 2A. Brother Jorge, I know you. I always talk to you because you still live up in that area, but I think that's 2A, Route 2A going up through there. It's not Route 2. It's not 12. I think it's 2A that goes through that area. So the irony here is, and I love my mother. I mean, I loved her, I guess, because she's no longer with us. She died while in a coma. So, but she was in a bar. She was in a bar, but she wasn't going to be with my dad unless he was saved and went to church. She was a Pentecostal. Do you see? I think you can tell things from different denominations. Air is a nice, quiet area. Since when? Well, maybe it is nowadays. I mean, it's not a big area. They have a small downtown area. They have a Pepsi plant, I think, up there too, up by the Rotary where the Wendy's is. They used to have a pizza place there owned by Chinese people. I mentioned that because I thought that was the strangest thing. And I'm not being mean, but it was literally the worst pizza, one of the worst pizzas I've ever had. Shirley's quiet too. Shirley's got a nice little downtown if you drive all the way down there. Well, Vermont's got some nice areas too. So Maine's got some nice areas. Massachusetts, Connecticut, a lot of states have. Upper New York is nice. Up in Schenectady, where the Florida mountains are, which I thought was hilarious. The first time I ever saw Florida mountains, I was like, wait a minute. Did I take a wrong turn? Fitchburg's not nice. Fitchburg actually used to be nice when I was a kid. It wasn't a bad place. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't terrible at all when I was growing up. Now I think the last time I was up there, we used to call, when I was in my late teen years, early 20s, we used to call Fitchburg Crackville because a lot of crack cocaine was going through Fitchburg area. And Leominster was like the uppity area. There were the more fancy folks over there in Leominster next door. Yeah, a lot of nice towns up there. Lunenburg's nice up there, Lancaster. Why am I going off course? Don't go to Winchendon. I'm telling you right now. You probably go through Winchendon sometimes to get to where you live, but well, maybe you don't. I don't know. But I will not go through Winchendon. Winchendon is a stereotype of what you would see on TV shows sometimes of folks, unfortunately. But we went off course. You got me off course there, brother Jorge. Man, you know, I got that, crazy ADD, man. I'm off course. But it's a nice area up there. That's I think the train runs through Air as well. It runs through Shirley, or it did. In fact, I think the last stop from Boston out into the western part of Massachusetts was out to Shirley area or Air, somewhere in that area. No, I don't. I think you want to come back. If I go back, it would be up to the Cape. Cape Cod's beautiful up there. I might maybe I'd go up to Nantucket or I wouldn't go to Martha's Vineyard. I'd even go to Maine. Northern Maine's really nice. It's beautiful up there. And in the east coast of Maine's not bad. Lower half, Old Orchard and stuff like that. But I tell you, brother Jorge, once you come south though, beautiful. And Pennsylvania's real nice too. Believe it or not. I think when people think of Pennsylvania, Sister Esther will probably agree if she's still with us. We think Philadelphia. All we do, Pennsylvania. You mean Philadelphia? Nope. Philadelphia is not a state. Pennsylvania is a state. Philadelphia is a city. Some beautiful areas out there. That's a nice drives, especially towards the western side of Pennsylvania. So if you come off of 84, is that 84? I think that's 84 going through Pennsylvania. It's really beautiful. Uh, it's some of that area is kind of like when you would say that's God's country, but it's beautiful. It's Virginia's real nice when you drive through Virginia. Excuse me, drive through Virginia. It's really nice. Long, Pennsylvania it takes a little bit, but not as bad as Virginia. But Eastern Tennessee is absolutely beautiful. When you got the Smoky Mountains, we're on the border of Cherokee National Forest, over by Cherahole Skyway, so it's kind of really nice out here. So I'll take this view anytime. It's even better than the Kangamangas Highway up there. You have the Kangamangas Highway in New Hampshire; it goes east to west, and it's got some beautiful spots along the way, but nothing like Eastern Tennessee. I'm telling you, it's beautiful down here. Even the northern part of South Carolina and the North Carolina where Murphy is and all that area, that's all through that back roads and forest and mountains is beautiful, beautiful. But I haven't seen the whole country. I mean, Colorado's probably real nice too. Wouldn't want to live there, but it's probably real nice. I just speak of areas I've been to. I haven't been everywhere. So maybe one day when I get the trucking company started, I'll go out and drive everywhere. That'd be nice. Want to see more views. But I think we used to leave gospel tracks along the way too. We stopped at the gas stations, and we did it in the bathroom. I think my wife did it too. I'm pretty sure she did it too, if she had any on her. In the bathroom, leave a couple of gospel tracks in the bathroom, the gas stations, or the rest areas and stuff like that. I drop little ones like with the chips and snack food. I throw a couple over there. But every chance we had going down, so that's fun to do that. Which I'd like to get back to doing that. And next time we drive down to South Alabama, Gulf Shores, I think we'll purposely hit a couple of spots to leave gospel tracks and stuff like that. I wish I can get more Bibles. That's always been my dream, is to get a Bible into every single mailbox. I mean, I thought to myself, man, could I get 1 million Bibles into 1 million mailboxes? That'd be pretty cool. And gospel tracks, obviously. And we'll see what happens. We try. We're not millionaires, so I don't know if we could buy 1 million gospel tracks. Although we probably could. If you go to the Bible Baptist bookstore, they got some pretty cheap ones. That's the Bible Baptist bookstore that a lot of people go to for Ruckman stuff. It's pretty well known for Peter Ruckman stuff, but they got some really great gospel tracks at really cheap prices. So that's why I like them the most. I don't think I have any with me right now. Hold on a second. I might. Hold on. No, I don't. Got some chick tracks, so always make sure you get some of those. Even though a lot of people have an issue with chick tracks, that they're mean or something or other, I don't know. I'm looking for the little ones. I have these little ones that I usually have. Here we go. Here's one. Tomorrow may be different. So you can get, can you see that? Well, you can probably see it a little bit. But I think it's like 100 of these or something like that for $2. I think it's like $2 for 100 of them, or $1 for 100 of them. So they're not bad price. Some of them are pretty good prices. Oh, here's the other one. Let's see. Of course, I'm a Christian. Oh, the overhead light might make it hard to see that. Can you see that all right? Of course. What is it? Of course, I'm a Christian. You are, and it goes in all these things in here. And one of my favorites, I think, is pretty cool to put out there, is the scripture references right there. It's pretty neat because it goes through a few scripture verses on hatred, mark of the beast, Israel, idolatry. Idolatry, we just talked about that earlier. So try to get these in the baggies when we can and get them out there. So that's a couple I have in my drawer over here, but I have more on the table over there on the other side of the pod shed. We get those out, and we get the little cards. If you like dropping gospel tracks, I would definitely go to that Bible Baptist bookstore. I'm not affiliated with them or anything, but they're really cheap. You get some really cool stuff and King James stuff. And I don't mean like Peter Ruckman stuff. I mean, just get some Gospel tracts pretty cheap. And even if you're too shy to hand them to people, you can always just drop them anywhere you are. Just in the candy aisle, in the chip aisle, in the uh, uh, battery aisle, not battery, yeah, battery aisles. Probably have battery aisles in these gas stations, wherever, or in the bathroom, wherever. You never know whose hand. Another good place, and brother Jorge, I think I told you this a long time ago. You could put them in the above the gas pumps. They have the little like advertisement signs. Well, they're inside this casing where you can actually stick a gospel track up in there. I might have sent you a picture of that a long time ago. I'm not sure. That's another good spot. And the only reason I got that idea is I was at a gas pump at a Weigel's in Knoxville. I think I was on the outside of Knoxville, Tennessee. Pretty sure it's Knoxville. And getting gas, I looked up and I was like, "Is that a gospel track?" And I took it down. I looked at it, I'm like, "It is." It had the stamping of a church on the back of it, and I put it back up there because clearly I don't personally need the gospel track, so I put it back up there, and that's what gave me the idea of putting them in anytime I remember to do so when I was getting gas, is to put one of those little spots there. So the other thing I get is I know it's so weird giving little weird ideas. Let me see if I can get this here. There's these things. I'll use other ones too, but I put these places. Religion says do. Jesus says done. It's like this little placard thing about the falseness of religion. But I'll put them in the little DBT. Sounds like I was doing debit card and EBT at the same time in that little debit card spot. So I figured, hey, if it gets into the right hands, Christmas time, though, we're talking about Halloween. I might attack Christmas again. We'll see what happens. I don't know. Not sure how that's going to work out. We'll see. Your thoughts on that, brother? Are you looking forward to doing that? Getting some Christmas videos out there and talking against Christmas. I've seen one I put at the gas station pump up there months ago. I'm almost positive it's been seen by someone. So it's gone. Nice. Or wait a minute. Or did you still see it there at the gas pump? I don't know. Yeah, I'll put them wherever. Here and there. I know I'm slacking of late. I haven't put them in as many places as I have before. On my side of the channel it says it's 0 viewers. Isn't that weird? It says 0 people are watching, yet I'm literally talking to you, brother. That's so weird. YouTube is strange. I just looked up. I saw 0. That's weird. It was there months later, but it looked like it was moved. There you go. Hey, somebody read it for a moment and then put it back up there. Nothing wrong with that. At least they read it. At least they took the time to look at it for a second. It might have dropped a seed. You never know. You never know. Wherever we can drop a seed, that's where you go. I'll tell you. I saw something interesting the other day. Now it just went from 0 views, brother, to 4 viewers. How is it possible when 0 people watching to 4 people watching, and I'm talking to you right now? So I know at least one person's watching because I'm literally talking to you. YouTube is strange. What? I'll show you what they look like. I didn't see the what. I thought you said I'll show you what you look like later. I'm like, what does that mean? I'll show you what they look like later. All right, cool. I just found one. Oh no, I already talked to you last week. In one of the old Bibles that I picked up at a flea market or tag sale, it had an old gospel track in it, which was pretty neat. I just found something in another old Bible that I don't know where it is. It was an obituary. The JW, and I never even noticed before because I don't even open up that JW very much. The New World Translation, I don't read that enough. I was looking for one of the verses from Westcott and Hort because New World Translation also uses Westcott. or they say they do. I'll get into that in some of my videos, how Nessel and Allens is basically the same thing, Westcott. But anyways, and there was an obituary notice in there from, I forget when, 1980s or something like that. It was a little paper cut out. I think it was from the 80s. I could be wrong. Now I don't know where it is. Ha! What did I do with it? I had it in here. There was an obituary in here in an old Bible, and I thought that was interesting. Well, now I don't know what to do with it. But anyways, I hope you watched the Tischendorf one I did the other day. I gotta stop saying Tischendorf, even though he's part of it. But the Westcott and Hort, I'll tell you, there are things that are interesting about that. A lot of us know about the NIV, and we know about the Nessel Allen. We know about the USB, the Bible Society with Bruce Metzger and Carlo. What was it? Carlo Santo Maria. I forget his name. Santo Marina. He was a Jesuit priest. Part 2. There's about part 37 is what this is going to be. Waiting for part 2. There's like 37 parts. We're gonna be going through a lot of them. Let's see all that right there. Pages of things we'll be going through. Certain ones that I think is interesting, like repentance is removed, and that comes from Westcott. That's where it originated from there. Even though you can say, well, he got from Sinaiticus and Vaticanus, but anyways, that's a whole other game. But there was also because the Legacy Standard Bible actually uses, and I'll be talking about this, I think, 2 videos from now. Legacy Standard Bible is just basically an NASB update, which is an American Standard Version update, which is the Westcott Hort. It's really all that ends up being. But they use Tregelles, but so what they did is they've now said, okay, well, that Catholic priest, that Jesuit priest on the board of the NIV, that was back then. That's, they figured that out. That was just a weird fluke or whatever. But if you go to the last Nessel Allen, the 28th edition, it has another priest on there. So I was going to talk about this during another time, but let me see if I can pull this up. I don't know if I will be able to or not. You know how I am at getting the other internet up. But there's a Jesuit priest on the last edition of Nessel Allen. So you can't really honestly say that oh, well, it was a fluke. There was only that one priest, and it's just it's a conspiracy. Well, then what about the other one? What about the new one and the Legacy Standard Bible, and that was promoted by John MacArthur and stuff like that, and now used by a lot of ESV people. So the ESV, like Justin Peters and that whole crowd there was ESV. They were big on the ESV and NASB. They were big on that. Was it NASB or NASB that they used to be big on? That doesn't matter. Probably both. But that ESV came out in 2001. So if the ESV came out in 2001, they would have been using the 1993 Nessel Allen. So that would have been the 26th edition or 27th edition. I actually own the 13th edition. I think it's the 13th edition I have from the 30s. So explain to me how you could have a change in things. And we're going to talk about this down the road. I got that video coming out next week. We'll be doing Matthew chapter 5 verse 44 next, but then 6:13 we'll be doing down the road. But trying to pull this up. Yeah, the 2014 verse. So in 1993, you had the guy Carlo Maria Martini. That was the last time. That was the last one he was involved with. I think he died not too long after that, I think. But in 2014, they had another a UBS edition. But in 2025, they got a guy on here where's his name? And now I can't find him. Not Klaus. Where is it? David? Nope, that's not it. Stephen. Oh, I'm gonna look like a liar in a second here. Close. Was it close? No, not him. I'm trying to find the guy now. Could have been the Steven guy, but anyways, he's there it is. Stephen Pisano, Father Stephen Pisano, a Jesuit. Why? Let's see if I can pull this up. I don't have my share screen on. We'll do this real quick here. Share screen. And do I want to pick a screen? Hey, there it is. That actually worked. All right. Check that out. So this is the a priest right here. You see him. Father Stephen F. Pisano, Society of Jesus. He's a Jesuit. He's a Pontifical Biblical Institute of Rome. Died in the Jesuit infirmary in Rome, October 7th, 2019, after a brief illness. Interesting. So Carlo Santo Maria, or whatever his name is, Carlo Santa Maria, whatever his name is. I'm just gonna go in the Wikipedia here. There it is. No, there you go. A lot has been said over the years about this man here. That he was the only one. It was only Carlo Santa Maria. Calm down. One guy, like the one lesbian they had, and nobody knew. It was a mistake. It was an error. Okay, so we had a Jesuit priest on the board of the where we got the Nestle Allen, the Greek that came from Westcott Hort, who was obviously inspired by the Roman Church. Blah blah blah. It's all no big deal. Now, was it him? I thought was something happened here. There was something that happened in 1881, and I don't know what it was. I found something in some research. Now I wrote it down, but it was the same year of Westcott Hort. It was like an anniversary or something like that, or the death of somebody. I don't know. But now, can you call that a coincidence anymore? Oh, it's just a coincidence. Because if you go back on the NIV committee, or it's the NIV committee, that's what it was. It was a lesbian lady, an abomination. So there's your Catholic, your Jesuit priest, part of the 1993 team. Does not seem to be. Oh, he is on the 2014 team. Hold on. I thought he was dead before that. His term ended in 2002, so I'm not sure why he's being used at that point in time. I don't see his death, though, when he died. 2012. Okay, died in 2012. So 2014, he's on that committee, but he's really not on that committee, I guess. But that was an addition that they updated probably, but still considered him part of it. So 2014, but that's okay because 10 years, 11 years later, they get themselves another priest who apparently also died, which is weird. So you have that 11-year period. There's a lot of things that don't make sense with a lot of these people. I find it fascinating that we're not talking about it. More people aren't talking about that in the King James world. We're always arguing Carlo, and which is a good argument to have that Carlo Martini was on the board with Bruce Metzger and stuff. But how come we don't talk about that Stephen Pisano? Then we have to talk about the University of Birmingham, which was pumping out some of these people and these textual critics, Catholics. I think Kloss was another one. He might have been philosophy or something like that. Vain philosophy. So I think things like that are overlooked. To me, people will say, "Oh, that's just a little thing. That's not such a big deal. It's very minor." But when you start adding up all these minors, they become, lack of better phrasing, majors. So that's how I'm looking at it. I'm like, how can you not see that and think something ain't right here? If the Nestle and Allen was based off of Westcott and Hort, which we know for a fact. I mean, it's well written, it's well known, because Eberhard Nestle even himself says that he drew on that. He drew on the Westcott Hort. He was a big fan of it, along with Constantine, and he followed that, and then made his own little updates or whatever here and there. And everybody then calls it the original Greek. Always the original Greek, and yet it doesn't match. Now that's the thing we'll learn that I've been trying to show folks now with these videos. Even though they all are deriving from Westcott and Hort, they're not matching identical to Westcott and Hort. Even though they'll say it. And well, we don't use Westcott and Hort. We use Eberhard Nessels. We use Nessel Allen. Okay, then you use Westcott Hort. That's kind of where we go back to. Yeah, we keep going back to Tischendorf and stuff like that, but that's where you got. Or Lockman. That was another name. There's another guy. What's the other guy's name I'm thinking of? Missed it. Can't think of the name, but there's Lockman and then there's Westcott and Hort. But I know this is kind of boring stuff. I don't really go usually deep into this stuff because it can be, to some, I think it is boring. But again, some of it's important. You don't have to go too far into the weeds to realize how corrupt it all is when things are completely changed and they follow the strain of one group of people, and it goes all the way down after that. We talked about last week with chapter 1, verse 25, Matthew, firstborn, then taken out in 1881. And after 1881, you hardly ever see the word firstborn again, except in the King James Bible. And by the way, when it comes to here's the argument that you're going to hear. It's a government Bible. King James is, man, it's getting cold out here. I got to get insulation on that wall. It's a government Bible, the King James Bible, because it was authored by the government. Okay, so the government, the Russian government, sent or paid for Tischendorf's journeys to go get the Vaticanus or the Sinaiticus. So is that not government owned? Same thing with Vaticanus, which showed up, but why would we rely on the Codex Sinaiticus along with the Codex Vaticanus or Alexandria? Alexandrius is also government funded. The royalty sent them out to get this or funded their journey, kind of like Columbus was funded by the Catholic Church through Spain. How's it not? So next time you tell is when people say, "Oh, wow, King James, that's a government Bible." Actually, your manuscripts today are based off of manuscripts found by being funded by a government. So I think we can stop with the government argument because you can't use it because those governments funded that. Even the first trip of Tischendorf in 1844, funded. 1859 was also funded. That was the one with Russia. So if royalty and government are funding it, then there you go. So you can't knock the King James Bible at all. You can't. Yeah, well, you can't put the whole government label on. Oh, it's a government Bible. Well, so what's the difference between being funded by the government and the king being on the name of the Bible? What's the difference? And some will argue with the word James, King James. There's a lot of other stuff into that. You can call it the AB 1611, the authorized version 1611. It's fine by me too. I have the 1611. I love the 1611. Not a lot of difference except for spelling. Not a lot of difference there. I don't mind the spelling being changed a little bit. It doesn't bother me because we're on the purified version. We're good. I'm fine with that. But I think we can throw the government argument out the window. I think it has no ground anymore because so was that. And of course, the Vatican is in control of all governments. It was what? It was the Vatican and Palestine were the only two bodies that didn't have an actual seat in the UN, but they were given honorary, what is it called? Seer seats or whatever. Observer status. I think that's what they were given. They were given observer status. So because nothing could go back to the Vatican. So, isn't it crazy? And by the way, I think bad times. I think we all know are coming, and I think it's coming quick. I mean, I'm still thinking it's 2027. Said it for years. I'm still going to stick with that. I think 27 is going to be the big drop. I think people are going to be hurting in this country, and I think true Bible believing Christians, what our job is to do is to try to help where we can, bring the gospel where we can, um, and just do the best that we can out there, because obviously ears are closing. Even, they say, I have heard this before, but ears are closing and no one's going to hear anymore. But what else is closing? Mouths. People aren't talking. People aren't really, they're afraid to talk now about the true gospel, the true Bible. I don't mean the Charlie Kirk ecumenical version. No offense intended. I'm not trying to. I still think the real victims out of all that, even though Charlie Kirk was shot, the real victims are those children that have no father. That's what I always look at that aspect. Tough times coming. Tough times. I don't know how anyone else feels about that, but we got some tough times, and we will need to rely on one another wherever we can. It's man, you look around, and I am reminded every day as I drive around or drive to work or drive to wherever. I'm reminded every day of my travels that we couldn't be more blessed. I know it's weird to say, oh, we're not supposed to be blessed. We're supposed to have hard times too, and stuff. Well, I do feel blessed because I could be in a worse position than I am now. I have a roof over my head. That's a blessing. I have a beautiful wife. That's a blessing. A beautiful, godly wife, I should say. That's a blessing. I have good kids, actually, believe it or not. Because they're boys, so they can be tough. And I'm blessed, and I'm thankful for every moment because I have the ability to buy the simplest things in life to get me by, and a lot of people don't. Um, and our job is to help where we can, not in the Catholic charity sort of way, because they bring food, but they don't ever bring the real bread. Um, we just have to help. And lack of better phrasing, we need to get the word out there more. We need to not have our mouths closed. Certain folks of us, or certain people, certain folks of us. Yeah, that's a public education right there. Um, there are certain of us that have the ability to help more than other people can. And, whether we're talking about food prepping, I don't mean just canning, my wife does that, but whether it be gold and silver and 25-year shelf life. And yeah, my family, we're able to do a little bit of that, and we're thankful for that. But you know how many people out there can't do that? Um, and some of it's not any fault of their own. Some it is their fault. Well, actually, many it's their fault. Uh, just be wise about things and discern the people you're talking to that really need the help, who are really actually seeking the Lord, and helping them along the way, however we can. Whether it be soup cans in the blessing boxes that we have around here. Uh, Now, people up north that watch me, no one has ever told me if there's any blessing boxes up there. I don't remember any blessing boxes up in the Northeast. Um, Maybe I just never noticed them. I've noticed boxes where they have those books where you can take a book, return a book. I've seen those in certain towns, usually rich areas, the rich areas of Natick and stuff like that, or small little tiny towns. But I've never seen blessing boxes where you just leave food for people. Uh, Again, I may not have noticed it. I don't know. But hey, listen, with that, it's an hour and a half in. It's not actually that late, but I gotta start being better at timing myself. And 9:30, well, it's not that bad. 9:30 ain't so bad. Um, I know I'm bringing the boys to a Civil War reenactment tomorrow, so that'll be interesting and fun. I still like to see things like that and historical things. Things that we don't pay attention to anymore. Our country doesn't pay attention to. Um, Church history is written sometimes by the Catholics, unfortunately, the Roman Catholics. A lot of that stems to there. You'll find in all things, um, like America, people call it empire, and it's on its last legs. And the interesting thing is, if I'm not mistaken, every empire towards the end is, other than Russia, uh, was ended because some Catholics were in hierarchy, Roman Catholics. I could be wrong in that one. I know Spain was under Roman Catholic control when they went under. Obviously, Rome. Then you got, I say Britain. Britain was another one. Russia was a superpower at one time. So, all right, I'm going to at this point start rambling on, and that's what I don't want to do because I don't want to bore people with my rambling. But I think instead of doing this Sunday, I usually have a Sunday message, and I had something I was thinking about doing, but what I think I might end up doing Sunday is putting out another Westcott and Hort. I think I'll be doing that. Matthew 5:44. Matthew 5 verse 44. I think I'm gonna push off my message that I had planned to next Sunday. I think I'll get some more of this Westcott out. It's not popular, I know that, but I think it needs to be out there more. But breaking it down the way I haven't seen before, just going through some of these verses that are very key and pivotal, and how they have been changed. Because I've always said it, if you're in the LSB, you're in the ASB, the NASB, the NASB, the RSV, and the even the RSV Catholic edition's identical. Yeah, you go all the way back. You're Westcott Hort, which means you're basically Catholic. You've been deceived by the Catholic Church and their Bibles, and you can see the fruit of those people too. Unfortunately, most of them. Some are nice people. They're not bad people. They just don't know any better. So, I guess for those who are truly seeking, then perhaps those videos will be helpful for them. Um, I get no monetary out of this. I get no payment for this. I don't do these videos to get paid. Clearly, um, no skin in the game, man. I don't ask for donations. I don't ask for tithing. Maybe I should Brother Jorge. Maybe I should download that app, the Tithely app. I wonder if I should just have I done a video about it just by itself? I should do a video one day about that whole thing. I was like, man, Mark of the Beast system much? I tell you what. All right. Well, sometimes you got to stop rambling. You got to cut it down when you cut it down. Hour and a half, not bad. It's been one of the shorter videos lately because we've been going on and on and on. But you know what? I'll be honest. Leave in the comments, or I feel like one of those channels. All right, smash that like button, hit the subscribe, and leave a comment below to get in the algorithm. Leave a comment if there's things that you're interested in that you don't hear too much of. I probably have it in a folder somewhere over here because I find the strangest things interesting. So I have not. All right. You have not done a dedicated video on Tithely. It would be a fun one. I think it would break up my my long drawn out videos. I think I might actually do that, although I'll probably get serious about it. But I think I'll do that with those other apps that we talked about because to me, that's a participation in the mark of the beast. Just like being involved in Bitcoin, as far as I'm concerned, whether you know it or not, I think you're participating in the paving the way of the mark of the beast and all of that stuff. I really do. That's my personal opinion. No one has to agree with it. And if you don't agree with it, I'm going to ban you and I'm going to block you. No, I'm kidding. Obviously, if you know me well enough, I've never done that. I don't think I've ever done that. Not that I'm aware of. I don't have enough people that would complain that much. All right. With that, I'm gonna, as always, awkwardly hit the end stream button. But God bless everybody. And listen. Honestly, guys, I appreciate it. It never gets old. Well, to me, it never gets old. To you, it might. But I am always grateful and thankful that you guys are here on Friday and watching any of the other videos. I'm thankful for all of it. I am. I appreciate it very much. With that, and I will say God bless, and whoever I don't talk to, have a beautiful week, and I hope to see you next time. Good night.